How is everyone doing? Welcome back to another episode of the Banker Next Door. I am your host, Dr. Joe Berquist. Today, I wanted to talk to everybody about data strategy. What is the data strategy for your bank? This is a very interesting topic that came up. I saw an article in Bank Director that I wanted to cover with everyone. So I'm going to bring this up real quick. So this is called Crafting Your Data Strategy. So the pace of technological innovation is accelerating. Creating and executing a data strategy today allows community financial institutions to be prepared for an uncertain future. Now, this article is a little bit longer than normal, so kind of just telling everybody up front, like kind of hang in there with me for a minute. But this article breaks down into three areas. Basically, it's like understanding biases that are in there, advances in technology, and then basically it concludes with like what they call like no time like the present. But it does bring forth an interesting question. What is your overall data strategy? I mean, things continue to change at a very accelerated pace. Obviously, with all the advancements in AI, but not just AI. I mean, when you look at just everything, software packages, cybersecurity, just a myriad of different things that are out there right now. This does raise a great question. That's something I think a lot of banks need to start thinking very deeply about. And again, what is your data strategy? What are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to drive certain products? Are you trying to drill down on what's going on with certain customer demographics? Like whatever it may be, this really plays into what's going on. So let's jump into this. So, and there is a disclaimer here that basically says the following piece is from Finex Tech's latest intelligence report called Crafting Your Data Strategy, sponsored by Wealth Access. And that there is a link there to access the full report. For anybody who wants to bring up this article, there is a link in the description down below that you can bring it up. But then it says here, community financial institutions have the potential to unlock greater labor efficiencies, new revenue opportunities, and better risk management. What is the key to achieving these outcomes? It's data. That's because better data can lead to better decisions, which can help executives achieve operating leverage and improve efficiency. But much of that data has been stored as entries that need to be cleaned and standardized in disparate, unconnected systems. The work to extract and format the data is akin to an archaeologist who starts digging and then will need to survey, identify, extract, and clean their artifacts so they can decide what's trash and what's treasure. Creating and executing an effective data strategy is imperative for executives, given how technology is changing banking. Community financial institutions are at a pivotal junction. There is a daunting amount of work to be done, but there are untold possibilities on the other side. The data is there. The tools are available, and there is even something of a playbook for institutions to follow to make the journey smoother. Smaller banks now have an opportunity to start seeing the big picture about their clients like big banks do, says Andy Zinn, Chief Innovation Officer at Wealth Access. Even though they don't have the $100 million a year tech budget, they are able to broaden the scope of what they see within their own four walls. So now we get into blind spots. So Sonata Bank in Brentwood, Tennessee, started its data journey early in its operations after the institution was recapitalized by an investor group in 2022. This has arguably given the $222 million bank, a unit of Sonata Financial Holdings, a competitive advantage among its peers. Management knew that data was going to be a large part of its strategy and execution, and could even be an area it potentially monetizes, especially as they thought about how to serve their niche market of quick service restaurant owners and workers, says Will Rhodes, Sonata's Chief Innovation Officer. This focus comes as community financial institution executives across the U.S. have become more serious about utilizing their data over the past decade, he says. Still, Rhodes sees varying levels of maturity and sophistication across institutions. Many community banks today are leveraging data for things like risk management, fraud detection, and compliance reporting, but they're not using it for proactive decision-making, he says. They're living in an environment where their data is siloed across all these different systems. That makes it hard to really pull all the data into one location. That's correct. I can't really argue with that. In Bank Director's 2024 technology survey, 34% of respondents reported that they were in the early stages of their data strategies, using data in just a few areas of operations, while 40% reported they used data in several areas of the institution, but still saw significant room for improvement. 16% reported not having a data strategy at all. So one reason why Rhodes thinks small institutions struggle is because their data is in a format or location they can't leverage to create meaningful efficiencies or greater growth opportunities. Technology of yesteryear, it seems, has created many of the data problems that banks need to solve today. To that end, Sonata started a project in 2024 to bring all its data into a data lakehouse. A data lakehouse is a data architecture platform that combines the flexible storage aspects of data lakes with the structure and management of a data warehouse. A uniquely American challenge, I would say, is our banking architecture and systems are archaic relative to our peers in other jurisdictions, said Mohammed Nasser, a principal in Crow's financial services consulting practice. There is a tremendous amount of data stored in legacy systems, says James White, general manager of banking at customer relationship management software firm Total Expert. Older technology systems could only store data of a certain width, which meant that entries into these systems were constrained and the rest was discarded. Some files still use 8-bit EBCDIC or extended binary code decimal interchange code used in the IBM mainframe. Compounding the technology limitations is that most financial institutions are organized through what Nasser calls a financial product-centric architecture. Regardless of whether an institution is using its core providers or leveraging third parties and fintechs, most systems are geared towards servicing a specific class of products and are not focused on a broader customer-centric view. Because of that, an institution's lending division, commercial and consumer, may not be connected to the deposit group, the brokerage division, or the trust department and wealth management. These systems store customer data in specific ways, creating information sets in a siloed manner that may have overlapping entries with slight differences that make the data set unreliable for analytical purposes. Take, for example, one pernicious data problem financial institutions face: their customer records. Technology companies ranging from large incumbent firms like online retail giant Amazon.com down to nascent fintech startups have demonstrated that understanding the customer is key to profitability. Financial institutions have long sought to cross-sell multiple products to existing customers to increase revenue and grow profitability. But multiple products also create multiple data entries across various systems in the bank: deposit accounts, mortgages, credit cards, car loans, wealth management, and potentially even commercial accounts. These products may all have a separate customer record and potentially inconsistent information. For instance, one might require a middle name while another requires an initial, or one might use a short nickname while another uses the full name. The data of how I relate disparate data about an individual in these different systems to one person or profile or one legal entity can get really challenging and potentially problematic, Nasser says. So yeah, again, no arguments there. That is absolutely true. Okay, now the next section of the article here gets into advances in technology. So if technology created the information silos that banks and credit unions must break down, it will also be the solution for unifying, centralizing, and leveraging the data. Small banks and credit unions can add the same capabilities as the biggest financial institutions and tech firms because of the growing number of partners offering data storage and management tools, integrated analytics, and visualization applications. And it's clear this is an area of growing importance to small institution executives, especially data analytics. According to the 2024 technology survey, 80% of respondents said their institution's leadership team and or board had discussed allocating budget or resources to data analytics. Only 32% said their bank had upgraded or implemented data analytics platforms and capabilities in the 18 months prior to the survey period of June and July of 2024. These tools may not be new to the market, but they are now available at prices that appeal to community bankers. Executives increasingly believe that while the core stores the institution's general ledger, it may not be the primary technology partner for their data strategy, given the difficulty or expense associated with extracting information from that core. And given the number of options available now, small institutions also don't have to build these tools in-house to own the process. These outside vendors can help financial institutions unify customer data from disparate systems into one location and then enrich it. The result is a richer, holistic customer profile that institutions can use to personalize their services and cross-sell more effectively. Platforms like Wealth Access allow institutions to analyze data faster and more broadly, meaning executives can make decisions that are more responsive, predictive, and dynamic. At the same time, there are risks that come from sharing bank or customer data with third parties. Executives will need to grapple with issues like data governance, customer privacy, and cybersecurity when outsourcing technology services. Thankfully, smaller financial institutions aren't wading into uncharted waters. Many financial institutions have executed successful data projects, which creates a playbook for other institutions. Shikhar Singh saw this firsthand when he left JP Morgan Chase as an executive director and joined Fargo, North Dakota-based Choice Financial Group as chief technology officer. Big banks like JP Morgan have a significant regulatory burden that requires large amounts of data. Over the years, they've invested resources and talent toward data governance, storage, and analytics, and now benefit from a flywheel that has spun off applications and use cases. In contrast, small banks may have historically relied on knowledge gathered through interactions with tellers and being involved in the community to understand their marketing customers, with less of a focus on incorporating data in their decision-making. But this is not a sustainable model as an institution grows or expands its reach. That's what happened when Choice Bank, the $5.6 billion bank unit of Choice Financial, expanded beyond its local customer base and began partnering with fintechs. Community banks say, well, we know our customers, Singh says. My question is, if a person is coming through a digital channel through the fintech customer, do we really know them? As Evolve Bank and Trust found out, the answer to that may be no. All right, that's kind of a low blow. I get it. But hang with me there. Singh's focus on how Choice Bank's technology stack integrates with other systems allows the bank to capture, store, and use the data generated from these systems. Today, the talent at Choice Bank includes a leader of data analytics who reports to Singh and a data governance function that reports into the bank's second line risk function. That to us was crucial because that's a good backbone, he says. If you don't have that backbone, then things will crumble down. So then the article concludes, and I'm not going to read through the rest of this whole thing. It basically says no time like the present. And it says there are numerous pitfalls that can negate the return on investment. Yes, we definitely understand that. Additionally, data strategies aren't ever done in the narrow project management sense. In other words, this is continuous evolution. And hopefully it's getting better and better. These projects are time consuming and expensive, especially as data sets grow. Yes, absolutely. But the data, and then there's one final, what he says, what is this? Data warehouses may seem like a 1990s project, he added, but the data from that warehouse is what your AI and machine learning models will use for training, particularly into the future. Institutions already on this journey can use this report to gauge their progress, make refinements, and think about future use cases. And it concludes by saying the hardest part is getting started, gaining an understanding of your data, the talent you have or don't have in your organization, and the technology you have or will need. There is a lot to assess enterprise-wide. So, yes, so I think there's a lot here to unpack, and I would encourage people, if you don't have a data strategy, I think it would be worth accessing this full report. Go, look at this, bring this article up. Access, Finex Tech. The report again is called Crafting Your Data Strategy. You could go on there and check this out. But again, I would say that everybody has to deal with data. We're all going to have to deal with data in various different ways as we move forward and begin to move into this future world. I'll call it the next 5 to 10 years where AI is going to change a lot in terms of what we do and how we do it. Is AI going to replace everybody's job? I still think that remains to be seen. Is it going to change the way that we do our jobs? Yes, I absolutely believe it is going to change the way that we do our jobs. I think that many jobs that are being performed right now today are going to look extremely different, may look completely different in the next 5 to 10 years. In terms of how we do things and how our efficiencies and multitasking and all these different kind of things. But I think that there's no doubt that, again, and again, I think a data strategy can be very simple. It can be very complex. It all depends on what you're doing. I don't know that you need to get as fancy as working with, data lakes and data warehouses or whatever, like the article says at the end there. That can get extremely expensive and time consuming. And, you might end up down a rabbit hole that, you may not like where you end up, basically. So, but I do think there's a lot of much simpler things that can be done, and you can do them very efficiently to generate a lot of great results for you. It just depends on what it is you're focusing on. Like, are you trying to focusing on business customers, on consumers, maybe doing residential mortgages, gathering deposits, whatever that may be. Again, I think if you have a really good data strategy, I think that you can achieve all these goals. So, like I said, but again, I thought this was really interesting. Something that I think every bank out there needs to consider and needs to talk about in terms of what is your data strategy. Also, what's your data stack? What's your data stack? What's your data strategy? And then, kind of go from there. So, but anyway, okay, I will wrap up this episode by saying, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. That always helps the channel. Remember, we are on YouTube, Rumble, and all major podcast platforms. Please be sure to leave your comments down below, as I always love getting back to everybody. And as always, please check out some of the other content on the channel. I thank everybody so much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful day out there, and I will see everyone again real soon. Thanks a lot.